Okay, hello, folks. My name is Neil. I am the creator of Fey Earth, an indie TTRPG set in an alternate 19th century Earth where all the creatures from folklore and fairy tale are real, have always been real, and live openly alongside humanity. Tonight's session is somewhat different. You should be immediately able to tell from my fit for the stream. It is not my usual.
Relaxed attire.
I
So
feel
comfy.
so chill right now. It's
Yeah.
amazing. But yes, we are having our final fireside chat of our campaign where we will be discussing our story that we've been telling for these last 2 years,
Can't
our,
believe it's been 2 years.
the characters and
Crazy.
everything that has been
So
happening. And I
put
will
your
say,
question. If people have questions, put them
yeah,
in chat, and we
throw
can
the questions in chat, folks. Okay. So I mean, where do people want to start? We could just start with the end with the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's the big one, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
suppose. I mean, going in, I definitely had concerns because I was kind of like, So what I figured ultimately Sylvia would probably be fine because she is immune to fire and has a million hit points
And
and
druids
can
are
change into
broken. Druids are stupid. We hate druids.
and can change into an earth elemental. So I actually wasn't worried about Sylvia, but I was worried like if Annalise or Justine fucked up a dex check, that's like you're dead now. So it's just like, oh god,
There was
that
a
is
very specific thing about that fight that I went into that being really worried about that surprisingly didn't come up. And it was we'd previously mentioned about the like
the
some sort of
gaze.
like control the gaze
Yeah,
aspect.
the enthralling gaze.
Yeah, and I was like, if that hat hits Annalise, if it hits any of the spellcasters and goes through, that's game set match. And
I
oof.
will say, while obviously part of me regrets that I didn't use that because it's such an iconic part of the ancient dragon's abilities in Fey Earth, and that is directly inspired from Norse mythology because in Norse mythology, the mighty dragon Fafnir had this ability and used it on the hero Sigurd, robbing him of his memory. And that's a
Absolutely.
whole part of that epic saga is when Sigurd fights Fafnir, Fafnir uses his gaze to rob him of his memory. He forgets everything about who he is and ends up randomly meeting his sister, who was separated from him at birth. So she didn't recognize that he was her brother. And then they fall in love. And then she dies. And there's this whole tragic, oh, twice beloved, because he loved her as a wife and as a sister when his memory comes back. But like the very simple reason why I didn't use it was purely down to game mechanics. So the dragon had one major action and four minor actions, and it could spend two minor actions to regain a major action. And I rolled fucking ridiculous on the recharge roll for the breath weapon.
Stop. We'll get
It
to that.
it was
That was
stupid.
it was like
I was
every other
like,
turn.
Yeah, it
If that
was.
ah,
It was ridiculous. It was literally like every other turn, his breath weapon was recharging. So because of that, I was spending um I was spending my major actions using that, and then other minor actions were being spent to close on Annalise, who was using their shadow jumping abilities to try to stay away. So that's why I never actually got to use the enthralling gaze. It was purely a combat action economy mechanic. I do regret it, but at the same time, I did feel like I was still showing a lot
Oh yeah.
of the power
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
dragon. It was a like Justine was so close to being dead, and
Those getting
Annalise
trapped underneath the rocks and stuff. That
twice.
yeah,
Yeah.
like because
twice.
again, we're coming back to it. Sylvia gets buried alive. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm fine. Don't worry about me. This is grand. And obviously, because the dragon isn't stupid, once the breath weapon didn't work on me the first time,
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna keep attacking Sylvia with fire. You know, even if Sylvia did start going, woo, like he just wasn't gonna, because he's so stupid, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and also
clever...
when you turn into a rock, he's like, well, I'm just not going to fight you now. There's no point. I'm going to let my fire elementals deal with you. I ain't going for the other two because they're fucking much squishier. You know?
Which again, having an intelligent enemy is something that I think
it's scary.
Any campaign can benefit from.
It's just
because you always, because the obvious thing is, like, you know, you're going back to your World of Warcraft, your MMO strategies. Oh, you get the meat shit, the tank to go in and bring the aggro, you know, so they soak all the damage, and then the glass cannons can go in, who are the real heavy damage dealers. But obviously that doesn't work in a TTRPG, and it certainly doesn't work if your enemy has like above intellect 1.
Aggro doesn't exist as a concept on a thing which can hit you and go, that's not working.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and but that's like, well, obviously they're not geniuses. Like, as far as I remember, the stat block for the Ancient Dragon, they have an intellect of like 4
or something.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucking brainy.
Like, to put that into context, that was Justine's starting intellect at level 1.
To put that into context, that's smarter than Annalise.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sylvia.
And Sylvia.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
The dragon was smarter
like,
than
not
two
too bad
of the
for a giant lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a big snake.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
Danger noodle.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, while I would have loved to have used the enthralling gaze, using major actions to cause cave-ins, you know, that was like, because like I don't have lair actions as a mechanic in my system, but I did have a massive 30-meter long behemoth that is very intelligent. So it was, I'm going to jump up and I'm going to hit the ceiling right over where those two fuckers are standing.
Again, it's a smart enemy. It's a logical use of space in its own domain. It's like, I know how this space operates.
Yeah.
I know I'm strong enough to like pull stuff down.
Exactly. Yeah, that was it. It was, and as I said, the rerolls that I was getting to recharge for the breath weapon, it was ridiculous.
Oh my god!
I think
that was stressful.
70% of those rolls were a success. It was obscene.
I was hugging my little mascot. I don't know about you guys. I was like, what is happening? Yeah. This is not good.
Honestly, that was almost what like was the end of me, because when I died for the first time and I used the
restorative spark.
Restorative spark, I was thinking of like turning into water elemental, and I was like, yeah, that's the time to turn into water elemental. But I was like, no, I'm going to deal some more damage. Surely he's not going to regain his fucking breath again. And he not only didn't regain his breath, he also collapsed the ceiling on me. That was literally the round where I was like, okay, I'm just going to turn into water elemental. Yeah. No, towards the end when like I died for the second time. Because that was the time when I was like, I'm going to turn into water elemental. Was like, 200 grip points or something.
Yeah, but like, and that's the thing, like with his, like as an ancient dragon, his breath weapon, the breath. This is going back into like these are I'm quoting the stat blocks here. Stat block for an ancient dragon: a cone of fire, 20 meters long, 30 meters wide, doing 10d12 plus 10 points of damage. And the target number for the dex save is a 27.
Jesus. The only reason Annalise made out of that was there was a round where I think Justine used an alchemist armor. And that plus the health the 10 grit I regained from the Stone Regeneration. If I didn't have both of those things in concert, Annalise would have gone down. There was so many points in that fight where it was like,
I'm not going to lie, I was really trying to get Justine dead.
Oh, I noticed.
And
Would you believe it or not?
Yeah,
I
chapter the
noticed.
2 rock falls. It's not a surprise.
But the reason I was trying to do this was because if you had actually gone down the second time and you were now dead, Tito was going to appear, snap the spell token to activate the revive, and then he was going to go in and do a fuck ton of damage on the dragon while absorbing all the damage himself. And then when the fight was finally over and he is like completely broken from the wounds caused by the dragon, and then you're like, oh, but you're immortal, and it's like his healing doesn't kick in because of the curse. And I was
But you
going, and
saved
he
that
would have,
tragedy anyway.
yeah, he would have died then from the curse.
Well, I'm
Oh,
happy it
God.
wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, better outcome, I suppose. Better outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a couple more
Gosh,
months.
gosh.
I'm
Like,
not an
it's,
evil.
it's bad enough you made me fucking cry on the internet in front
I
of
am
everybody.
so proud.
Again. Again.
Yes, I mean, this has always been the goal, to make my players cry on stream, and I got
It's
2
the ultimate
players
badge
to
of honor.
cry on stream. You know, it was great. It was.
Except, like, it's really easy to make me cry because I'm basically a fucking marshmallow.
What can I tell? Like,
I love-
was,
Like, this is the weird contract that tabletop players make, because we're like, hey, here's this thing that I feel very strongly and personally about. Don't hurt me with it. And they go, I'm going to. And we go,
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it is the classic thing of like, the player comes to the GM at the start of the new campaign. So here's my character, and here's a novella of fucked up trauma. Now go use it against me.
I'm the only one who did that.
And I was actually quite gentle with you in this campaign.
could be
Yes,
worse.
I
It could be
appreciate
worse.
that.
You
because
know.
you weren't
Yeah,
the
cool.
last time. So
I don't know
like,
what you're talking about. This campaign, I was so gentle.
So kind.
Because your character was fucked up. Oh my god, she was such a traumasaurus.
Sylvia was a mess when we started. I'd read up on like PTSD in war
Wartime.
veterans and stuff because I
Yeah.
was trying to. I didn't want to, like, I would never want to play something like that for laughs and have be like, oh, Sylvia starts screaming because like you don't know you weren't there, and all those kind of stupid jokes about it, and oh, triggered, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, all the really stupid shit that like that dickhead edgelords kind of do. So I didn't want to do any of that, but I also didn't want to be that kind of. There's a character in one of the Spider-Verse movies, one of the Spider-Man variants, and he's all like, "Oh, I was thinking about my past." And,
With the blonde hair. Oh, that
yeah,
guy.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, I don't want to be that either.
I'm too busy brooding.
I'm too busy being tormented. You know, like. So I was trying to do all these like fucking layers. So like,
I mean, I think it's the best way to go about it though, because it shows
Yeah.
respect for like both the
Yeah.
character and the truth of what that is. I mean,
because there was a whole thing at one point where Gwen and Sylvia were mixing potions. And so we were like making rolls, and I completely tanked one of my rolls, and Neil was like, okay, well, you fuck it up. And but you man, and then I think I rolled well enough again to like, okay, you mess up your potion, but you can turn it into a healing salve. And I said something like, oh, I hate the smell of disinfectant. It reminds me of like, this is like being in the fucking hospital. And then like, oh shit, obviously. So Sylvia then was like, oh, I need to go get some air, and like left and had a panic attack. And like Gwen knew exactly what was going on. Sylvia, as far as she was concerned, I was like, I'm totally hiding this. This is fine. But because she did that,
well hidden.
I'm so together. But because Sylvia left, she didn't spot Gwen slip a fuck ton of poison into some wine, and then which we then gave some fairies as a gift at another time because the fairies were dickheads. And we were trying to negotiate with them. It wasn't going anywhere, and Gwen was like, oh, here, have some wine to sweeten the deal. But the wine was full of fucking poison.
Yeah, but
and she told us after, and after that Sylvia was like, that was my fault, because if I hadn't had that stupid panic attack, I would have
Boom.
caught Gwen. I would
Yeah.
have known that she did that. And it was just
Mm.
like, but I don't want to confess this to the party, but this was my fault. You know,
Whoops.
so it
My
was
bad.
like, it was a whole thing. And then,
Tough, isn't it? Yeah.
So going back to the dragon fight, I'm gonna
Mm.
each of you. What I mean, or maybe you didn't have one, but if you did, what was your proudest moment that you had in the fight?
I mean, I think for Annalise, it's just pure damage.
yeah,
It's just
you
pure
just-
like locking
you
the
just-
legs, especially
you
for like
are
a
just-
character.
you were just a fucking death
Yeah.
machine. It's
Hey,
so good.
I think in one turn you did something like 90 points of damage.
I think in at least in a few turns I broke at least 100. If we're
there
counting
were,
armor,
there
definitely
were
lower than that.
115 in at
But I-
least one or two turns.
Oh, yeah,
It was
you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
It was sick. Like I was sitting
think-
there going,
Now, this is
I-
one thing. Like, part of the reason why it was such a why the fight went on as long as it did. I mean, an ancient dragon has 875 grip points and has an
Wow.
armor of 1010.
But
So
then
regardless of whether
he
it's a
started
melee
guzzling
attack
hit
or
well.
a firearms attack or a spell, I'm still subtracting 10 from the damage every time.
Yeah.
Just seeing in chat, Annalise more than once dealt more damage than she can take. Yeah, if Annalise
yes.
took the amount of damage she dealt, you'd kill like
Dead.
10 Annalises.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I remember there were at least a couple of turns where you easily did like 115 points
I
of
think
damage.
so. Like
Yeah.
raw in terms of raw numbers, like without negations, I think I hit. I'll have to go back and watch the VOD and try and put together what the highest number I hit was. But I think I did like 120 at some point.
It was sick. I was watching it, and I wasn't kind of counting it up because I was kind of just going, okay, just assume the dragon has really high armor and fuck tons of grit, so it doesn't matter. But like, you know, I was kind of going, oh, that sounds like they're big numbers that she's quoting every time. That's a lot of damage.
I think
So
for me, there was a point like, and it was sort of mirrored in the fight we had, the fight air quotes, against the Dragon Leviathan in the Fey realm, where it comes like straight up to Annalise and she just digs the heels in, gun first, and just starts pulling the trigger. I think she did a similar thing to the dragon this time, and it's nice to have that little representation of where she's come from, where it's like, hey, I can do a lot of damage as long as I don't run.
Yeah, it's like if you keep your head and just
Yeah.
do what you got to do, you are a monster.
So what about for Sylvia? What was Sylvia's proudest moment in the fight?
I don't know. Standing there and just going, meh, after like he hit me with his brat weapon was kind of nice. But also pulling off Gorgon's touch.
Yeah,
was
absolutely
nice.
huge. Because you had for the sake of like chat, you had so much trouble deciding on what to go with in the end. Like that was a hard
and
decision
then I remember it was kind of like I had a choice.
what was you had two that you were in mind? What was the other one? I forget.
There's Sunbeam.
Was it
I have
Blessed?
Sunbeam.
Yeah.
There was I could have taken. Could I have taken? No, I wouldn't have taken Wrath of the Gods. Oh no, I could have taken Wrath of the Gods, which is an AoE. I could have taken. There was another one. Polymorph into like where I could have also.
It was.
I could have also
Shape
turned
change.
into it. I could have turned into a dragon.
Shape change. That's
turn into a dragon.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
But ultimately, but at one point, because I think Justine was dying, and I had a choice between healing Justine or attacking the dragon, and you were all, oh no, you've totally got time. If you go and like attack, you'll make it back. It's fine. And I wasn't gonna, but then I was like, okay, you've twisted my arm.
100%.
So I like used all my minor actions to get up, and then just went smack, and then like legged it.
Yeah.
And and then he failed the save, so I was just like, ha! Fuck you!
I think that moment right at the start of the fight where Sylvia just stands down and just takes that fight again. It's like one of those moments where it's like
Where she
where
kind
the
of
character's been to where she's come to now.
Yeah, she just kind of again rooted her stance and took the hit, and then was ultimately completely fine and just shrugged it off. Like that. The last time Sylvia stood in front of that dragon, like her entire world ended, and like
100%.
she very nearly died, and so it was just very much like, okay, I'm back here again. Let's let's try that again. So that was kind of cool.
Okay, and what about for Justine? What was their proudest moment?
It's hard to say because there was one moment that I'm not very proud of. Is not polymorphing into water elemental when I should have.
But we didn't know that breath weapon was just gonna like.
Yeah,
and I think you retaining access to your spellcasting did make a big difference throughout the fight.
Yes, I wanted to say that like it wasn't during the fight, but it was before the fight. Just pulling the mage card, I think, was a very good decision.
Cool! Oh
that
my
was
god,
so good. Because honestly, you sent a string of messages going, "Oh, I'm thinking of I've had a chance to look through the deck. These are what I'm thinking of," and I was kind of, I glanced at it and then went, "Oh, do you know what? I trust Polina. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure whatever she chooses is going to be great." And I just didn't. I meant to reply and look at the message properly, but I didn't.
You got this.
And so when you were like, "Oh, I'm playing this card," I was just like, "Yeah, no, I knew it was going to be fine."
There were a few decisions in that fight that like were okay. This changes how the fight's going. Using the mage card completely changed how that fight was going to go.
Oh
that
my
that was a
God.
complete shift. That was
Yeah,
incredible.
your fucking arcane bolt and like the amount of bolts that you were using for 1 mana, and I was sitting there like, oh my god, this is insane.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Neil would allow me to use it because it basically just turned me into.
Why wouldn't I gave you
It's
the
a
item.
that's one use.
Yeah. No, that's true, but like this thing was just insane because it bumped my magic and it bumped my intellect. But because I'm a sorcerer and I had arcane enhancements, I had loads of like spell modifiers dependent on my intellect in particular. So penalties for my spells, or like mana cost for my spells, were reduced to like 0. I had like -20 for the Sphere of Arcane. I had -10 for the Sphere of Twilight, I think, and like -6 for everything else, or something like that. There were like some crazy numbers.
Yeah.
So it was a bit insane. I've looked through the whole deck of wonders, and there were some pretty cool ones, but I just felt that there were some that would be like more suitable
The
for druid. There were some
flexibility that offers is crazy.
Yeah, there were some also that would be like more suitable for gunslingers, but I just felt like since I'm using the deck of wonders, using the mage card made the most sense for me, and that would be like the best investment into using that card, because the whole thing lasted for an hour.
I was going like, I trusted your judgment anyway.
Thank you.
So like, I was just going, okay, you know what? We've got some pretty badass magical items. If we go down, we go down, but we're gonna still make it fucking epic. We're gonna cover for each other as much as we can, and it's gonna be like, I went in like I was actually kind of shaking when like we went in. I was like, oh god, this is like, and I'd gotten this insane pineapple gin for Christmas, which I was just like,
I love that. It was very much a smoke it if we've got it fight. Like it was
100%. Like if whatever you have. So I was thinking like see Gorgon's touch, if it didn't work, it's like, okay, I'm down 20 mana and that's shit. But if it works, I felt it was worth the risk. Do you know what I mean? So someone of those, you make a save, if they pass, you do half damage. I think it was if if they make the save, like you do nothing and you still
Yeah.
spend the mana. So I was like, no, that it is. If I get this to work, it is so worth it.
Yeah, in fairness,
know?
there are very few spells in the system that are like that, where if they pass the test, there's no effect. Most of the ones that are like that are enchantments that affect the mind, but Gorgon's
Yeah,
Touch, because of the
chaos.
nature of the spell, because if it works, you are causing a creature to become petrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a sticking clock, if it can't be that save, it's like, you're going to die. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of how long.
I did personally think Justine's proudest moment in the fight was when she finally remembered to tell the water
The
elemental.
water elemental. Shout out to the water elemental. What a champion.
I mean, they were doing their best.
Talking elementals, it's always about elementals, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I forgot to morph into one. I forgot to tell. No, I didn't forget to morph into one. I chose not to morph into one,
Exactly,
even though that was like
But then it was
literally
like,
my
I'm
plan
going to
B.
teleport out, and then like you did something, and then I was like, oh shit, I forgot to tell them about the elemental stuff trying to dig me out. Fuck.
Yeah.
And like they are still there doing 100% the most.
They're still digging up to these days. Like they're still there.
They're still there. They've gained sentience, and yet all they want to do is dig. I love that for them. Incredible.
Yeah, but I mean, so like, I guess my question to you now is like, thinking of your characters, what they were like when you started playing them versus what they were like at the end of the campaign.
Yeah, well, personally, I fucking loved Justine's growth. I thought it was absolutely amazing.
Incredible.
Because if you'd seen it at the start, right? So you've got fucking Traumasaurus, Chaos Goblin, Aminata is just a general fucking menace to society, and
beautiful, love it.
Then Mina is just like, yeah, I'm gonna fight. This is gonna be great. And
a menace to other kinds of stuff.
And Justine is just like, what the fuck? No, why would we do that? Like, why are we going into this like incredibly dangerous forest full of fae? Why the fuck would you do that? And like, she was the kind of reasonable person who was just like
sensible one.
But also, it was very much, it was cool because, you know, obviously we're trying to showcase Fairth as much as we can. And it was great because it was like people watching who didn't know about Fairth were kind of able to, it was nearly like doing it through Justine's eyes. And like, what the fuck? This is insane. What is happening? You know? And then so to go from that to wading into a fight with an ancient dragon with a million arcane bolts and just being an absolute fucking monster.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just, and of course, the pig's blood and Marie DeVite.
I think we've said it every single Fireside chat. What a delight it is to see a clever person playing a clever character.
A clever character.
Yeah.
Just like how much.
And the whole thing with the necromancer, the plan against Montclerc, like that was.
Like we have
insane.
Things have gone drastically smoother than they would have if Justine wasn't around. Like if Justine wasn't 100%. Around, half the party would be dead. We would have no idea what we're doing. We would be going straight into combat, seeing what happens. It's
thank you guys.
I've loved seeing the change from this, like, because you were like intimidated starting Fair with us.
You were a baby gamer when we started.
Yeah, I wasn't intimidated because like I knew you, I knew Neil, I knew you were good people, so I wasn't afraid to like join a campaign. But I had no idea what I was doing because I've played like one shot of D&D before and that was it. Like I've never really gamed before, especially like a long-term campaign. So I created a character deliberately without like much of a backstory and much of a baggage, knowing that I would be able to play them. I don't want to say that Justine was self-insert because she's a lot cooler and a lot smarter than I am. But it was someone who is quite similar to me in character in the way she would react to things, at least at the start, being like, why the fuck are we doing this? Why are we going into this creepy, dangerous forest? But yeah, my idea was like I'll start with like a blank canvas, someone who's pretty much hasn't seen anything, doesn't really know much, but still is quite like intelligent. Because it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I knew that if anything, I'm good at puzzles. I'm good at like finding clues and stuff like that.
What
So
is a tabletop game if not just kind of a big puzzle?
yeah, so I
Yeah,
knew
for
I knew
sure.
I'd be able to pretend to be smart at least.
You
So
do not realize
not.
how much of a superpower it is to be good at puzzles as a gamer,
Oh,
because
Yeah.
the amount of players who have been completely destroyed by a puzzle presented to them by their GM that they got from a puzzle book for toddlers.
I'm going to embarrass myself here because I was in an AP that went live on YouTube years ago. And for a solid 30 minutes, the entire party, myself included, I was a player, could not progress because none of us could name the sequence of the planets from the sun in order.
Oh God!
But that's how bad it can be sometimes.
Yeah, but that can also be like just a complete brain fart as well.
Yeah, we're on camera.
I didn't have to do that.
Mercury.
I just had to roll intellect, and Neil would be like, "Yes, you
go.
still know
There
this
you
shit."
go.
So
Yeah, but you did also legitimately make
The
healthy
plans,
decisions and have good
yeah.
plans, which is what you expect from somebody who is smart.
thank you. I'm happy. I'm happy it worked out. So like, yeah, Justine was like a blank piece of paper. I knew I wouldn't be able, as a baby gamer, I knew I wouldn't be able to pull off playing someone whose experiences are drastically different from mine and who has like a really complicated backstory because like I don't.
So the opposite of what I did.
Yeah, exactly. Because I just
All
knew
the
I would
trauma.
not be able to play the character because I'd be just too
sure.
worried and it's a new environment and everything. So I wanted to
100%.
make the life easier for myself. But I'm happy how she grew and changed and she actually developed personality from being like, why the fuck are we doing this? Why the fuck are we going here? To like, okay, my friends are fighting a dragon. I guess I'm gonna be a good friend and fight the dragon too.
I shall also fight this dragon.
Yeah, because Justine, I think, was the only one from like the remaining party who had no connections to that dragon. So like Sylvia had like a personal beef with him, because he killed her wife, and Lace as well because of your past. You kind of had to, not had to, but like it made sense for you to prove yourself and fight this dragon and redeem yourself to family and not be like a deserter anymore. Justine was just like, I guess I'm going.
I guess I'm here
What
as
can I
well.
say? I have no plans for this evening.
I could be in a
might as
library
well.
right now.
Yeah.
I loved
So-
it. The party needed someone grounded. They really did.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, I loved that at the start because I feel like it made Justine unbelievably relatable.
Thanks.
Just because like she's fresh out of college, she's just graduated, her brother is missing, and she's really worried about him, and she wants to find him. And like, wait, what do you mean there's a fucking elf keeping him in her house? Like, what the hell? And then like she's the sister of the lady of the forest, and then like Gwen is after going and having sex with this absolute bunny boiler, and like we're just like, oh god, what is happening? It's just chaos.
Truly flying by the seat of their pants. Like,
And like
just
you
absolutely
just see
grabbing
Justine, it is I think Emma sent it to me. It's a scene from Community where I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen any Community. I don't remember anyone's names. But your man comes in with the pizza, and everything is on. There's somebody
and everything's on fire.
Something,
He's like,
everything is on fire.
Yeah.
And there's some guy lying on the ground, and like people are trying. There's another guy trying to like kind of see if he's alive, and it's just like. And you can see this guy's clearly like, I've just left to get pizza. What the fuck? And that guy is Justine 100%. Like, you can look at that picture going, that is Sylvia. That is Mina.
Yes.
That is clearly Gwen. And like, you know.
Without a doubt.
So,
100%.
Ari, you joined the campaign quite late.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It came in quite late. It was interesting coming in at that point because a lot of the party have obviously established a lot of connection to each other, and Annalise was part intentional and also not part intentionally a foil to Sylvia.
I got right away that like she was like really trying to keep Sylvia at arm's length as much as she could.
Yeah.
And Sylvia is not a particularly, I'm gonna forcibly get close to you the way Aminata would have been. But so she was like, okay, cool, you want to keep me at arm's length, like that's all right, whatever. Like, she wasn't going to try and force that connection because she's not that kind of person. But I was sitting there very aware, going, I wonder why that's going on. That's interesting. I hope this can like be teased out later, because that's.
I think it developed really nicely. I'm really pleased with how it developed.
It was very organic and felt very natural. So like when Heinrich turned up, and
I'm not gonna lie, I was like building that up in my head for weeks beforehand. It was such an epic scene.
Absolutely, It's so cinematic because you could just see Annalise opening the door, like Major Bauer right over her, and it just, so good.
And like Sylvia's standing there, just going like, "Oh hey, we were just talking."
No, but like, because like you opened the door and it was like, as far as it was literally says like Major Nicole, like that was it. I said virtually nothing.
No, and it's that moment where like Annalise like, either I die now or I don't.
Yeah.
And whatever happens after that happens. Like it's there's something in that where it's like you can be so terrified of something happening, and then it can happen and then be done like that. And it's like, oh, and now I don't know what to do with myself.
It was because like it was what I loved about that whole thing when Sylvia's brother did come to Paris and Annalise met him, was the fact that when you look at the number of scenes that that Annalise and Heinrich shared together, he said virtually fucking nothing to her. Like he was saying virtually nothing.
But volumes were communicated.
But that was it. Like there was so much being said in what he wasn't said. You know.
Yeah, it was so there was. It's hard to say the physicality of it because obviously we're playing digitally, but like you could feel it in the air, like the pure tension of it.
Even me, like I was sitting watching, I was like, "Oh no, oh no!" So I can't imagine what you felt as a player just participating in this, because even watching it was like a lot.
Yeah, it was. I as a player, I'm a red button player. I will push buttons. I will get myself into trouble because it's fun.
Oh yeah, no, me too, 100%. Like I deliberately dropped Moraine's name. I deliberately dropped that because I was like, I want this interrogation. It's going to be so funny because Sylvia feels so guilty about it. It's just going to be hilarious.
But it's funny to me to see how Annalise's personality shifted over time. Like when she first came in Madame Josephine's, she was quite light about it.
Yeah,
and I
didn't. I was like, oh, it's a griffin.
I didn't expect her to develop as sassily as she did. She really became like a little bit nudgy.
There was a lot of that.
There was a lot of little teasing, and I think it really shows like. Because she is a sister. She loves her sisters. She's the eldest of her troop, and has always been like outside. It's those little insights into who Annalise is, minus the military. Like if she hadn't been molded.
Sylvia's the kind of the baby. They like her brother and sister don't count Otto, her younger brother, because he's a piece of shit. So like Sylvia, as far as her older siblings are concerned, Sylvia is the baby who like they kind of had always like tried to kind of shield, and from their parents, and so Sylvia was coming in with that dynamic. So like when Annalise started slagging Sylvia off, it was very much like Sylvia was like, okay, this is my place in this pecking order, because it always has been with as the youngest.
Sorry, Justine.
I have a question for Annalise, for Ari, I should have said.
Hello, yes, I'm still here. What can I do for you, person who lives outside of world? I don't know. What's this box? Go on.
I just want to know about like the character creation for Annalise, because I feel we had a bit of a different story starting from like the day one.
Mm.
Eugene was a
Cool.
blank slate. Sylvia had a really, really, really like deep background.
Mm.
But I wonder if you had some inspiration for Annalise, where she came from, or did you just kind of was given an overview of the campaign by Neil and kind of just try to like weave Annalise in there? Because like she worked so well with the story and she worked amazingly. So I'm just curious about like how you created your character, what she was thinking about, if you had any inspirations.
I think a lot of it was in concert with Neil. There was, we were like, okay, what kind of at this stage of where you the rest of you were in the campaign, what would make sense for a character to show up and have a connection? And we very quickly latched on to like there was a slot filling as well. Annalise from the get go was going to be a gunslinger. We were never really
Yeah.
exploring other classes. We needed a good ranged martial class, so I was like,
Why
great, we'll play
not a
gunslinger.
spellcaster? I wonder.
Why not?
Sorry.
Who knows?
No, in all seriousness, Polina, and that is a valid question. The party already had enough spellcasters.
Yeah.
You're a magic.
No,
That-
I know.
You
I
know,
know.
yeah.
but
I was
like,
joking.
like
100%.
I mean, another witch would have been great. I love the witches, or even a
Yeah.
mystic. But no, as Ari's saying, was like we had at that time we still had Christina in and out with our heavy melee fighter. So a solid heavy ranged fighter was what the party it was the one skill set the party was missing.
Yeah, and we were like, okay, what makes sense for a person who's very proficient with a firearm? What would make sense for them to be in? Okay, either French military, Prussian military, somewhere nearby. And we're like, okay, well, Sylvia's here, and she's got a lot of connection to the Prussian military. And originally, I think it took us a little bit to get to Annalise being a major. I think initially she was a couple rungs down.
Yeah.
But we were both like, it's much tastier if she's a major. It's much tastier.
I think a big part of it was actually, I think what it was it wasn't so much we wanted her to be a major as much as it was we wanted her to be the same rank as Sylvia's brother.
Yes.
That's absolutely what it was.
Yeah, for sure. That was a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And it obviously being at the point in campaign where she couldn't just be coming out of the war.
No.
So either she had to be a survivor or have been a deserter. And for me, again, I love playing in tragedy. So being a deserter and dealing with, again, it's that slight foil aspect to someone else who had been through the war and seen the end of it, where Annalise never saw the end of it. She didn't see the dragon. She was gone. And it's that other kind of coin of tragedy of what war is.
Yeah, like, so Sylvia was looking at it from the perspective, like, war was hell. Of course, I don't blame you for running because, I wanted to run all the time.
Yeah.
I have one friend who survived because he deserved it as well. So, of course, I'm not going to fucking judge. Whereas her brother was looking at it from the perspective, you're an officer, you were put in charge of these people, and they're now dead because you ran.
Yeah.
So it's very different. Like, neither of them are wrong, but they're coming to it from a very different place.
100%. And it's I think a part of that pressure, I was like, okay, there needs to be pressure and tension here. It's one thing for a soldier to leave. It's another thing for a major to leave.
Yeah.
How would she get that position? It's a commission position. She had to have come into it monetarily. She doesn't have money.
Yeah.
She must be from a moneyed family. So then we kind of developed a little bit more of the Nicole bloodline. I've got a big old family tree on my Google Docs thing about her various sisters and her dad and their mothers. And it very quickly like wove out from that core point. At how I was going to play Annalise, near to entirely improvised. I had ideas about the kind of person she was and the kind of attitude she'd have. A lot of it came up reactionary, and I love that.
I love that too. I had plans for how I was going to play Sylvia, and it's pretty much what I was planning. I was going for somebody who was like, who had been somebody who would have been considered like, oh, way too soft for the army, but had to sort of harden and to just get through the day. But then around when a couple of months into the campaign, So I had seen season 1 of Shadow and Bone. I started watching it again. I started watching when season 2 came out. And that's when Neil started watching it with me. And I saw, like, I hadn't thought of, like, when I saw season 1, I hadn't thought of Sylvia at all. Like, this was long before, like, we even started or whatever. But I saw a lot of very uncomfortable parallels between Sylvia and one of the characters in it. And I was just
what's
like,
his name?
Kaz Brecker.
Brecker, yeah.
And it was like a kind of a horror story for me. It was like, oh my God, if I'm not careful, Sylvia could end up like that. And that to me was just like,
even down to the point of, sorry to interrupt you, my love, the character of Kaz Brecker, for those who haven't read the books or watched the TV show, he has a massive, it's a phobia of physical contact. Like, so he will not let people, he wears gloves all the time. He will not let people, and you do eventually find out why. It's because of a horrifically fucked up tragic incident in his past is why he will not in any way allow physical contact.
So because when you see him in season 1, you're like, oh, this guy's a total badass. Okay, he doesn't like being touched. Cool, whatever. And then like second season, you're like, oh Jesus Christ. So it became very uncomfortable to watch. So then I was kind of like, okay, well, if I don't want Sylvia to end up like that, I need to show her starting to recover. So I was trying to do that organically. Aminata was like very much trying to help Sylvia, and I say help as opposed to like help, because forcing hugs and stuff was not the way to go. But yeah, no, like they were genuinely trying to help, but it was just like, this no.
It shows, that it's that like proximity to what war is. It's like Sylvia and Annalise, outside of like really towards the end, were never super contacty, and that might be part military, part Prussian.
Yeah.
But that's just like, we show support by I stand next to you and nod solemnly.
Yeah, like I think it was after the fight with the werewolves. Sylvia got her arm. Sylvia's arm was broken. It was the whole thing. It was basically like, I did the right thing and I tried to help somebody and I got attacked and they tried to kill me for it. And she was just so massively devastated by that. That because she'd always been kind of like, I want to help people, I want to heal, especially after the war. I don't want people to end up like me, a broken. So she had, despite Dubois being a complete piece of shit, she did genuinely like put herself on the line and tried to help him, and he retaliated by singing a mean song about her, trying to kill her, and broke her arm. So she was like completely devastated by that. And I remember Annalise didn't go up and hug Sylvia, just stood beside her and kind of slightly leaned against her.
Yeah.
In a very like, I'm here and I'm just going to hold that space for you. But it was, So
there's those little, I absolutely adore where Sylvia and Annalise ended up. I think they're really
just
good.
Like on your feet, Major.
Little teases here and there. Oh, good shit. So good. It's like that was part of the goal for Annalise, and there were bits of who she was that came out randomly, and things about like, her being a Fey touch and stuff that were in there, and it's she was very much a product of, I think if she had come in like 6 months early into the campaign, she'd be a very different character. She was very much a product of the point of the campaign where you guys were. I hope you enjoyed her.
Well, having brought up the amazing Philippe Dubois, this brings me to my next question to you. Of all of the characters that you met and interacted with in the campaign, which NPC was your favorite for whatever reason, and why?
Oh man.
Well, you know my answer to this.
Does it start with a T?
Yeah. And ends with an O.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I was kind of obsessed with Moraine, and not because Neil, when he introduced her, said she is a cross between Ruby Rose and Anya Taylor-Joy. It's not just that. But I just thought she was a really interesting character. And like when we were in the Tronquay Forest, I had been sending messages to the rest of the group going, hey, I want Sylvia to make a wreath for Moraine to say thank you for the whole, for the Bunny Boiler sister incident.
Absolutely.
And then unfortunately stuff happened. We ended up having to go to Cambrai. We looped back around to cure Philippe Dubois' lycanthropy, but then we had to leave again. So Sylvia, I never got to go. And I was actually like, oh shit, I was actually really disappointed, wanted to like get to know that NPC better. And I was like proper, like, and that was about less than a year into the campaign anyway. And then there was the whole thing with the Baron, and then I was like, oh wait, I wonder if Moraine would know anything about it. Like, I wasn't planning for Sylvia to get with her. Having rewatched some of their interactions, that is not. I realize that is not how it comes across.
It really felt very intentional on both sides, I'd say.
It wasn't on mine.
I love that.
What actually happened, because when people started saying, "Oh, hey Sylvia, you're in there," I was like, "Oh, actually, it would be really funny if." So the whole dinner thing, Sylvia was going to get really, because she was really nervous.
Yes.
Was going to just drink too much wine and might accidentally, inadvertently say something inappropriate, or maybe like brush off Moraine's hand and like, unintentionally do something, but then completely convey the wrong idea, or and then have this and play that for laughs and have the like massive amount of gay panic and all of that. So that's what I thought. That's what I was like, oh, I'm totally gonna do this at the dinner. It's gonna be great. And then the dinner happened the way it happened, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Oh my god. It was just like, I was so flustered. Absolutely. And just didn't know what to do. Like, for
so good. So good. Yeah, love Moraine.
What about you, Ari? What was your favorite NPC?
That's tough. It's a real. I was thinking about saying the Baron because I really enjoy a hot bad guy.
He was a great villain. He was a
good villain.
He was a great villain.
Absolutely. I think it's either going to be the Baron or Madame Josephine. I really enjoyed, like, there's something about a person who is so self-assured, and like her just breezing through, picking up another person and getting on with her life. That's great. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I like on an interpersonal level, I'm like, whoa, okay, hardcore. But personally, that's super hot. You go. Incredible. I mean, what a queen. That's why Annalise never really got too weird about it and was always like kind of just on the level with her, because I think Annalise has a very different outlook on like love and romance than I think most people like near her do. So she was never really like, oh, you traitor, you've done a horrible thing. She was like, okay, well, I might die tomorrow, so well,
See, Sylvia was like that very much. So when we had like for the whole thing, when Gwen hooked up with Moraine's sister, we were like following behind, and then it was like, oh, here's a house. Justine sends Anki to scout ahead. Yes, poor Anki looks in the window, and like Gwen through Anki's eyes sees everything that's happening, and like
nightmare.
She is horrified. Mina is horrified. Sylvia is sitting there chuckling, going, yeah, well, I think what I said was, yeah, then who Gwen chooses to fuck is her business, and like didn't really say anything more about it than that. Was a little bit put out because she thought that Gwen was in love with Juliet, and at the time had been all like, oh my god, I'm totally going to help you do whatever it takes for you two to be together, because she was kind of trying to live vicariously through Gwen.
Yes.
Because she had been in that situation of the forbidden love, and it didn't work out for her. So she was like, okay, I want it to work out for you. So she was doing that, and then Gwen basically, Sylvia had said, look, I thought you guys were in love. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was just not just casual, and I'm sorry if I pushed things. And Gwen then basically turned on Sylvia and tried to make it like she was the wronged party in the whole thing. And Sylvia got so mad with Gwen about it because I was like, you broke a really nice girl's heart and you're making out like you're the wrong fucking party. Like you're 19 years old, but you're still a fucking adult. Like, you know, you need to. She was just so mad, so she basically threw her. She basically pushed her at Madame Gautier. She was just like, well, you know what? Here's somebody whose heart you're definitely not going to fucking break, so go nuts. And like, was like, no, go spend time with her. I'm going to be fine. I'll be here. I'll just sit here on my own. Don't worry. It's fine. And like basically pushed Gwyn at Madame Gautier and left them to it.
So there was going to be an arc, which never happened because Neve unfortunately had to leave the game. But there was a random scene where Gwyn bumped into this girl on the street who nearly got hit by a cab and healed her. And the girl said, oh my God, thank you so much. Here, I need to give you something as a thanks. Here, take this. I know it seems strange. It's a fairy hammer I was given. That girl was Madame Gautier's ex, who she'd been with before Gwyn.
Oh.
The hammer belonged to a leprechaun and was cursed. And you could only get rid of the curse if you gave it willingly as a gift to somebody, and Gwyn had willingly took the hammer.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
God, that's good.
But then Neve left the game, so we never got to play that story.
There you go.
But she
it
actually
was a thing. I remember you were making Neve do roles, and we never found out why. That's why you said, you were like, oh, I'll explain it to you later. Maybe we'll get to like
carrying a cursed fairy hammer. Yeah,
this whole time. The whole time.
Oh my God, because I've been thinking like, oh wow, I'd love for Sylvia to get that off Gwyn so she could send it to her like brother-in-law who's a carpenter. So I'm very glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. Oh my God, there you go. Yeah, wow. Cool.
Oh God, because I had been thinking that because Christoph is a carpenter. It's like, oh
yeah.
Jesus.
Whoops.
It's like there wasn't many. There was a couple of stories that never happened, largely because of players leaving. So with Christina, there was going to be the whole thing with the Fight Club, underground Fight Club thing, and one of the champions in that Fight Club that was introduced was actually a member of a witches' coven in Paris. There was 5 witches' families in Paris that were a coven, and one of the men in one of the families who's a really good fighter, they're like, this is a really good way for us to make money. So they'd basically they'd made a lot of amulets that he wore in the ring to help him fight. And that was going to be another story. It would have been a second arc for Christina with Mina's character of the Fight Club and that whole thing, but then would have linked in to Gwyn because it would have introduced Gwyn to a witches' coven in Paris.
There you go.
So that was another whole thing that I had written, planned out, but never was able to do because players left the game for various different life reasons.
I am interested to dig into like missed opportunities or breadcrumbs that never got quite picked up. I think that'd be
like I was very like when you mentioned the witches in the Fight Club, I was like, oh, that's going to be a thing with Gwyn. I can't wait to see that because I love, I love watching other people's backstories play out. I really, really do. And then maybe even just revealing connections with other people's backstories, like what happened with Annalise. Revealing that connection with Sylvia's brother and all of that. Like that kind of stuff is like crack to me. I love that.
Beautiful.
I mean, there was, of course, other stuff like there was the potential for an arc with those fairies in the park, but you guys dealt with that pretty quickly and pretty well. There was, remember when you were in the catacombs and you found yourselves fighting these weird fey creatures that looked like dwarves with giant
I I disappeared down a rabbit hole,
So-
looking for what the fuck they were.
They're Slavic. I think I say Slavic, Eastern European more so than Slavic. I think they were Bulgarian. They were actually connected to the Baron. They were
Yeah.
Fae that he brought with him, and they were
That's
in his
what-
estate. And his estate
Interesting.
was literally just above that section of the catacombs where you met them.
Got you.
Yeah. So that was
So-
that whole thing.
Yeah,
There was-
in my research, I discovered an image that was basically exactly what you had described, but it didn't have any, nothing I could find had anything about what they were called, or where they were from, or what
That's
they
the
were.
joys
But I
of-
was literally like, that is the thing that I am looking for. I just don't know what the fuck it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, so
That's
I was
pretty
looking at.
That's my research of all Eastern European folklore.
I'm so sorry, guys. The only thing I have in my head is like Despicable Me, but like hair
the
version.
little minions. I love that. Absolutely.
I mean,
Oh,
and there was
where
other-
they turn purple and feral and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones.
Like-
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there was other obvious things that weren't necessarily arcs, but was stuff that could have been hooked onto. Like, for example, when Amanada went back to the Baron's estate and saw the
Oh, the
beautiful
vampire.
woman with the black
Yeah.
parasol, she
Yeah.
was one of the Baron's progeny.
Yeah, I
Oh,
figured-
really? I
Yes.
thought she might have been like on
No,
the other side of it.
she was
Ah.
one of his progeny. She was a vampire that he had created.
Interesting. I thought she was like a sire of some sort.
No, she was a
There you go.
vampire the Baron had created, another powerful spellcaster.
But again, like, these are things that unfortunately, like, and you can't blame
Yeah.
people for
Life
Oh, no,
comes in.
life.
In fairness, I think T immediately realized, oh fuck, this is another vampire. I'm getting the
Leave.
fuck out of here
Yeah,
right
for
now,
sure.
so I don't die.
We're not doing round 2 of this.
Yeah, because like let's be honest, like
That was brutal.
the Baron
dude.
fight was an epic fight.
100%.
He was a
Absolutely.
20th level sorcerer.
Yeah, it was just like, it was
And
horrifying.
you guys were only something like what, 10th level at the time or something?
I think 10th,
Yeah.
11th. We weren't high.
Yeah, 10th,
Yeah.
11th level fighting a ancient vampire who was also a 20th level sorcerer.
Yeah, the whole thing was like fucking horrifying.
Yeah, it was great. It was so great.
Loved it.
And I remember, like, yeah, I've been. I mean, the thing about games, I mean, this is something that happens in any group. You know, you meet up, you say like, okay, we're gonna play this game, but inevitably things happen outside, and you'll start the game having been like, yeah, I'm all in, I can totally commit to this, but then things completely outside of your control
You never
just
know.
fucking
Absolutely.
happen, and because of that people have to leave, and then because of that things don't get explored, and that's nobody's fault. That's just
Life gets in
unfortunately the way life is.
Yeah.
I think in a way,
like most games don't go beyond a certain level because people
Yeah.
can't
Well,
commit long term.
According to stats from D&D Beyond, 95% of user accounts on their platform don't go past 12th level.
yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
and that's that's nobody's fault, but like even the simple fact is, like, we have lives, families, relationships, other, hobbies, commitments, health stuff, like there are so many factors, jobs,
Like,
even,
look, a weekly actual play it's hard work.
Tough.
It's
very tough.
really hard work. It's a massive commitment,
I get why there are teams out there that are like, hey, we take a day, we do 8 hours of recording and slice that into episodes, because it's like, I get it.
Yeah, because and if you can do that, that's amazing.
Yeah. Like I have said, if I was going to do a live stream weekly actual play again, it would only happen if it was generating revenue and people were getting paid.
Hey, yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's such hard work.
That's because at that point, you are, because it's such a commitment. Like people need to be paid for their labor, and then also, then there's I mean, obviously, like we're all friends, but it kind of turns it into a contract as well. So there's
For sure.
that kind of
It's a
aspect
different
too.
sort of
And
power dynamic in a way.
it's it's a complication, but it's also a safeguard as well in a lot of ways. It's weird.
Yeah.
So Ari, I want a question for you now, my love, because
Please.
you're an experienced player. You've played on a lot
I'd
of
think
games,
so.
a lot of systems.
I keep busy.
But this was your first time playing Fair.
Yes, absolutely.
What did you think of the system?
Loved it. It's I can say that without any hesitation. I absolutely adored it. I think it takes it takes a lot for a system to properly make a character feel unique. I think, and I think a lot of games which get a little crunchy, like you can go two ways. You can either go for a game that's very light, very rules light, very gentle, and while you can create characters that are very distinct, mechanically it can often feel quite similar. You can go the other way, and if you go in the direction of things like, say, first edition Pathfinder,
yeah,
absolutely, where you've got an insane amount of options, and you get characters who are very, very complex and very different. But then often you kind of get into the gishy elements. You get into stuff where it's like, hey, we're playing a high level campaign. I get you want to do this cool little build that you made, but if you do that, you'll probably die. So you need to do this kind of slightly stronger structured thing.
Yeah.
I think a game which supports a very alive world. It is. I think it's not a system where it's like. It really encourages you to kind of engage in the world building and the lore and the story of it. Because I think, there are some systems that way you can kind of go, okay, I will take this and now I'll smash this IP into it, or vice versa. And this feels very, there's a life to it, which I really enjoy.
I feel like you can customize really well with things like World of Darkness.
Yes.
Vampire.
Great
Vampire, changeling, werewolf.
Anything by the World of Darkness stuff.
Yeah, the WAD stuff is great because you can basically you can just decide, okay, well, they don't have character classes the same way. It's it's
clan is what kind of
you've got clans, you've got your you've court and changeling, your pack in werewolf, your path in mage.
I fucking love mage. So good.
Yeah. I fucking love mage, but
they're great examples of a thing where it has like an umbrella.
It's so customizable though, because you can you can be like, okay, I'm going to be a socialite Toreador who's super high charisma, 100%. But also if I feel like it, I can turn you to paste.
This is the thing.
Fix.
It's and I think
and you can do that with in changing. You can do that in like all of the WAD systems, and I love that about it because it's. I feel like with D&D, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to be a bard, so therefore I'm high charisma, and I am on this path, and okay, at third level, I choose my school, and therefore that means my character is on the set path. Whereas
one of those things where there are there are statistics or features that are so powerful. It's like if you're like dexterity is like, hey, if you don't have dex, it's going to be bad for you. But like in this, I didn't build Annalise with too much intent of putting more into magic. She wasn't going to be really a magic person, but it just happened that adding that into her build made her stronger.
And because with the gunslingers you have the artillery. Like in campaign 1, I did that with my own gunslinger.
But not just that, because Annalise was fey touched, by having the higher magic, it meant you were able to access more of your fey lineage.
Yes.
Well, like that
there's something about in that vein of the World of Darkness stuff where it's like, okay, I'm looking at Ventru. I know the sign kind of like this is the box that Ventru are in. And some are like this, some are like this, some are kind of like all over that. Feof does that in a very familiar and great way because it's like, okay, I'm playing a witch. That could be, there's a lot that could be. There's a box. These are the stuff that I can do, but it's a lot that's going on, and it can be very diverse. And
you could be, but you could also be a very fighty sorcerer who's like
You can just get in
got
there.
who's
Absolutely.
fucking got pugilism, and then by the way, I can do fucking lightning damage when I punch, and I'm rolling a d12 for my damage
100%.
with my fists.
I
And like,
stand by
like
the thing that
you
makes
can
a
you
good...
can do that with a sorcerer if you
Yeah,
want.
you can get wild with it. The thing that makes good systems are ones that do not fight against player creativity, where there's room for you to go, okay, this is kind of the idea I want to go, and the system allows you to have a space where you can be like, okay, we can absolutely do that, let's make it happen, or we might need to go in a slightly different direction, but we can still get the core of that. And I think Faith does it really well, where it's like, if I built a glass cannon sniper, and that's like very much and again, like, me and Neil have said it a lot. The gunslingers are a decently gritty martial class. By all logic, they shouldn't be glass cannons. However, Annalise is a sniper with nothing in resolve. She has no grit. But
Also, you can't roll above a 4 on a fucking
D10. Every time you leveled up, you rolled terribly. Kalina was rolling higher on her D6 than you were with the D10.
It's so true.
It was actually like horrifying. I mean, whatever about, like, I was rolling a D8, but like I was adding my high resolve
6 or something
and
like that. It was like +7, yeah.
Yeah, I was like +7 for a good chunk of time. So I was like, oh shit, I only rolled a 3, but I'm still adding 10 to my grit. So
I think to some I've seen systems that try to do what Faith does and don't quite make it there, because there's always something.
So Fantasy Age,
if
anybody's played that,
I've not played it.
Very much tried to do that. It has a really, really cool thing called stunt mechanics. So you roll d6, you roll 3 d6s, and then so you roll 2 d6 one color, and then 1 d6 another color, and that's your stunt die. And then depending on if you roll doubles, and then what you get on your stunt die determines how many stunt points you get. And if you get stunt points, you can then do all these mad. You have choices. You can do like an extra attack. You can like, intimidate your opponent so they, increase your defense, or like there are all sorts of crazy things that you can do. And they're really, really, it was really good. And it was really simple as well, and there was so much room to customize. Like when there was a lot of so on the you level up at this point, you can increase this, if you can increase one of your main stats, or you can take another skill, or then like the problem was the 3 classes: rogues, fighters, and mages. And basically the rogues were great, the fighters were pretty shit, but like okay. And then the mages were absolutely fucking terrible, and quite useless. So it was just like, and then there were loads of things that like, what if I want to do this, and it's like, there's no
this structure in place to support.
I mean,
there's no structure in place that. So you're like,
on the one hand, they were trying to not do what D&D does, where it tries to have a rule for everything and to say, look, the GM decides. But where they failed in that was not giving enough guidance to the GMs on how to make their decisions in a given scenario. And the biggest problem with the system was that it was just really incomplete, badly designed. Like it basically, when I first started running, I thought, this is so amazing. It's so great. It's so free, so easy, so simple. But then the more I was reading it, the more I realized what I originally thought of as beautifully designed simplicity was an incomplete system.
Yeah, it's hugely, and you see it a lot. I think where there's systems there are so many systems out there that have absolutely awesome bones, where you can find systems where you're like, oh, that mechanic is really cool. I really like that mechanic. They should do more of that, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah,
and I think it's
because, like, I mean, when I was making Fey Earth, I mean, obviously the main reason for me wanting to make it was to create a game that was telling the stories from folklore. And
that's a huge part that I didn't touch on, which I would love to, is that it's the authenticity of it is immaculate. Like I'm not a stickler for like oh, this has to be this way. This is how this thing is. But
Mm.
there's a distinct difference in being a hyper nerd about something and coming at something with passion. You can read passion, you can see passion. And when you see something that's been well researched and well represented in a way which just enhances it, where someone can go, oh, this maybe this is a creature I know, maybe this is something I don't know. Oh, and this is stuff that's actually spoken about in
Yeah.
folklore, in story, in tale and
Yeah.
myth. And it's like, it makes it feel that much more real, especially in a system which is, it's that smash of magic and realism. And if you're going, hey, here's a thing, and it can do something crazy, you're wearing a party hat now. It's like, okay,
Let's go fight a dragon. I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything else today.
But yeah, like the other thing when I was making it, apart from wanting to be authentic in my portrayal of folklore, was I wanted to, first of all, create a system that was mathematically simple, which it is. It's vastly superior to games like 5e in terms of the maths behind the system. It's so simple.
Shadowrun.
But also I wanted to
Shadowrun.
create a system where you as a player had a high degree of customization, which I really feel like Fey Earth offers.
I'm a really big, like, I don't get to tap into it often, but I'm a big character builder. Like in terms of mechanics. Like I love the Borderlands games because like you can fiddle around with all your class trees and make a cool build based around a particular idea. And I love seeing that in tabletop games. I love seeing like a framework and then plenty of room for player exploration and creativity. It's fantastic. I think, like, Faith does it really well, where it's like, compared to gunslingers, like compare I don't know if I have a, what was Susie?
But
what
you
was,
could make a gunslinger and then have them be completely different to
Yeah,
Annalise.
hugely.
Susie's gunslinger in our first campaign was completely different to Annalise.
Completely different. And
She used pistols, so like my entire thing was I was very much a quick attack. I could
spray and pray barrage attacks.
spray barrage, and then also I could hit an opponent. I was basically dead shot, so like cover didn't matter.
Yeah.
So like what used to happen is I would wade in, do a fuck ton of damage, get completely swarmed, take a ton of damage, but my character was a tank, so it was completely fine. And then, I would get totally fucked up in that fight, but I'd be grand. But I'd be reliable. But I'd be reliably doing like 90 odd points of damage a turn and just being like, okay, well,
Yeah,
sure.
Emma just pointed out when we had our guest player with her gunslinger was also completely different, as well. But
I think, like there's a world where, maybe if Annalise did see out the war and then becomes like a high resolve shotgun wielder and suddenly is all like close quarters brutalism. Like, it's a completely same class, completely different like play style. And it's those points where the mechanics inform the characters, and I think you see how those two things kind of bounce off each other, and I think you see it a lot here.
So we are, of course, technically finished our story, but as I've said to our viewers, we will be having a epilogue, I guess, in a few months' time. We'll be returning to our players. We haven't worked out the exact mechanics yet, but it'll be at least a year or maybe 2 years into the future.
Absolutely.
With the party having gone up another couple of levels. So I mean, without giving away too many spoilers, where do you see your characters being in 2 years' time?
A big question for me, like, at what point in Tito and Yassine's relationship does Tito pass on? Is he
It was a couple, as I said, a couple of months.
So that's gonna really, that's big.
Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah,
I want to know where Yastine is. I feel so sorry. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm so sad.
3-4 months. So yeah, okay. Well then, Yastine, in 2 years' time, where would she be?
Sure. Good question. I'm not sure. I have an idea. So I think after Tito would die, she'd go back home. and try to like give the family business another shot. But like that that just didn't work out because she never liked it. She never wanted to do it.
Mm.
So she did invest shit ton of money into the family business and help her brother big time with like monetarily, because her brother is actually really good at it and brother is actually enjoys doing it and he can do it. Then I feel like she'd just go and travel the world, see all the places she wanted to go and see with Tito, and then also go and see all the places she wanted to see herself. For example, South America, meet that at Steaky Princess again. And after that, I kind of see her just kind of becoming the apprentice of Madame Gautier, and maybe working
Yeah.
on the diaries that she recovered from
Oh,
like,
for the
Absolutely.
prosthesis.
yeah,
Yes.
For
and
the
just in general, kind of
prosthesis.
becoming an
Oh
artificer
my
or
god.
something artificery adjacent.
I fucking love that. That's
Yeah.
so good.
So
Annalise,
that's it. That's me.
Annalise, where would you be? Because as I mean, I remember talking about this with Susie, like with Annalise's character. I'm not trying to be too triggering to people, but the character of Annalise, if she was a real person, and more importantly, was a man who had done what they had done in that time period, how the family would have dealt with that would have been a loaded gun and you're left in the study on your own.
Yeah,
That's how it was dealt with.
absolutely.
And I'm not trying to
Absolutely.
be
It,
triggering,
it just it
but
just
that is
was in
in the
that time
in the
though.
It's like,
19th
hey,
century.
make it right.
A car because Annalise had completely destroyed their honor, lost all their honor, and that was how that was dealt with back then. But
Mm.
now Annalise is a hero and has completely regained her honor, because the newspapers and everything, Prussian Major Annalise Nicole, one of
I
the
hate
heroes
that.
that defeated the ancient dragon,
Yeah.
you know?
It's yeah, it's really tough to think about because it's like, she came out of that in a position where it's like, oh, I can go home and pick life back up.
Hmm.
And it's like, do I want to? What does it mean? So I think for Annalise, like she would have gone home. She would have like they're a wealthy family. She's arguably probably more wealthy at this point.
Oh, yeah,
So
you got another 10,000 gold from the Dragon's Ward.
there
Like,
you go. So a lot of that money would have gone into like her sisters. Like she would have paid for like Talita to actually get proper medical training, like higher level education. She would have covered art colleges. She would have covered like I'm sure the sisters want new outfits to cavort. She would have sorted that out. She would have
Aries
essentially
as well,
just
if they wanted to get married.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. She would have started covering that, and it's not in a way, maybe in a small way, to just kind of push her father a little bit off their backs. I think in terms of her she would have. I don't think she would go back into military command. I don't think she did. I think the closest she would get would be to go back and just in terms of like training people and start training soldiers in like proper firearms control, how to look after your weapons, proper tactical control, when to retreat, when to engage, and almost kind of take a similar stance to what her father now has in terms of just being a tactical advisor. That's her day job. I think she uses her access from her father's connection to the military to find out local sorts of problems, and at night goes full vigilante.
Oh, love it. Yes.
Full middle of the night, shadow jumping around. Oh, there's a troublesome thing happening here. A bullet rips through the night, solves the problem, no one to be found. Like
Excellent.
she's going full like
I am Batman.
kinda, yeah, just full like Prussian Batman, just
Oh,
lurking in the
yes.
shadows, and then by day is just kind of a wealthy aristocrat, and is just sort of
Awesome.
supporting the family.
Oh
Loving
my
it.
god, I
Loving it.
love it.
I've got some ideas for like Annalise's redesign past this time, which is gonna be really fun.
Oh,
I might have watched too much Arcane.
right. Susie,
Definitely.
Susie,
Yeah.
what would Sylvia do over these next 2 years?
Okay, so Sylvia has her little project with Moraine, the manuscript. So they would definitely be working on that
That's
together.
about 6 months.
Yeah. I feel like the three of us would absolutely have book club with that fucking trashy romance novel that we found. Like that just has to be it. That
I
just
think
has
that
to be
becomes a regular thing.
that
Like,
has to
we
be like
find a book.
book club has to just be a thing that we do. Because
And I
like two
imagine-
out of three of the party can fucking teleport, so like
There you
it's
go.
fine. I feel like there'd be regular family dinners with like Moraine and Sylvia going to Addie, and then Sylvia's nibblings being completely obsessed with Moraine, Helena just being like, "Oh my god, are you a real princess? You know, can I see your crown?" And then Nickel being like, "Oh hey, can I have a go in your chair?" And just like being totally obsessed. I imagine there would be some blowback with her father turning up, trying to kind of ride on the coattails of her glory, having, you know, disowned her, and Sylvia being quite openly telling him to go fuck himself. So that she'd probably get some blowback from that. But I feel like, yeah, there'd be family dinners and, you know, just, you know, cutting her parents and Otto off completely and just, you know, really moving on from that. Visiting Lisbeth's grave finally obviously needs to be a thing that happens. Other than that, she'd probably be trying to like hide from the druids in Paris, and because like I don't know, I suppose
one.
Oh Jesus.
We love the chosen one.
Yeah, Neil was saying druids wouldn't really be active in Berlin at all, was what he was saying. So she wouldn't have to worry about it from that on that front. But she'd probably, I imagine she'd like be living with Moraine and just, you know, have her own druid's grove on the grounds and, you know, grow her flowers and her healing herbs and basically whatever the fuck she wants.
Awesome. Well, I don't know yet. I'm hoping by the end of the summer we will return to our heroes. However, if you are looking for more content, more Fey Earth content until then, you will be able to, because starting on Tuesday the 11th, and I've just added their Twitch URL in the chat. I will be showing the streams of a mini campaign that I GM'd with the incredible damsels in distress. This was a really, really fun mini campaign, in no way related to this story, set in London. And it'll be every Tuesday, 7 o'clock Irish time, 8 o'clock Central European, with a completely incredible cast. So completely different to this. A lot more chaos, okay, but really, really fun, really, really iconic, and you will love it. So until then, make sure you follow us on the Damsels on Tuesdays. Not this Tuesday coming. Tuesday the 11th is when episode 1 airs. And keep an eye out on our socials. On Blue Sky. More stuff will be coming. I am recording more content, one-shots and mini campaigns, which will be airing throughout the year, as well as content that I'm collaborating with other groups. But until then, folks, thank you so much for joining us in this story. And we look forward to sharing some more stories with you soon. So don't go too far. We will be back. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.